Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. The roadmap has been updated, so today I will break it down. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons and channel members, in particular to Verpine for becoming my latest patron. Thank you so much for the support, mate. It is very much appreciated. So first off, let's get the painful news out of the way so we can move on and get to the good stuff, as there are some pretty awful pushbacks, but also some new exciting additions. Regarding the pushbacks, the actor team states during the planning and review process last month, the actor team have come to the conclusion that additional time for polish and refinement is necessary for the following features and have therefore been adjusted to accommodate. So with that said, features that were expected to release in 3.14 and are now coming in 3.15 are Healing Tier 0, NPC Healing, the Cure Life Medical Tool and the Grey Cat Multi-Tool Medical Attachment, Hacking, FPS radar and scanning, and the biggest blow of all, personal inventories. This is a real bummer, as I was super excited to see personal inventories come in with 3.14. Also, healing and the FPS radar was exciting for me, but unfortunately we will have to wait until Q3 release at the end of September to see these come in. What's worse is that with these delays to 3.14, there are also some 3.15 pushbacks, and features that are now pushed from 3.15 to Alpha 3.16 are the Weapon Charge and Drain Tier 0, Active Feature EVA Tier 2, 0G Push and Pull, the Grey Cat Salvaging Multi-Tool Attachment, and worst of all, Salvage Tier 0. That's right, salvaging is now not expected until December, so this week's roadmap update certainly has a few painful delays, and I am disappointed to see that these won't make it in for the initial expected release, but I'm a grown-up and I'll get over it. So there are also a few removals from the roadmap. The first is migrating legacy vehicle XMLs to data core, with CIG saying it needed re-evaluating to be a more gradual process than initially anticipated. The small home outpost colonialism feature has changed scope and is being temporarily removed until it's been rescheduled. More on this feature later on in the video. And finally, the shield system tech replacement, which was originally planned to be a 2-part release, was fully completed for the 3.13 release in tandem with this shield effects version 2. So it is already in and no longer needs to be on the roadmap. So with all that painful stuff out of the way, let's get on to the good news. So with these delays and the new edition of the 3.17 column, the roadmap viewer has had a few changes. Firstly, for 3.14, so the next update coming towards the end of June, we have Weapon Thruster and Shield Capacitors version 1, and as we've heard, this is giving us the ability to manage an extra amount of energy that can go into either 3 of these systems, making critical decisions on the distribution of energy in order to defend, attack, or run away. We also finally have Volumetric Clouds version 1. After all this time of reading about the work that they are doing, clouds have been sprung upon us for release in 3.14, with the feature stating the initial version of the bespoke system to convincingly render multi-layered volumetric clouds of varying scale within planetary atmospheres. Finally, I cannot wait to see these clouds. So for Alpha 3.16, they have included the addition of the MISC Hull C, more on this coming soon, and for the new 3.17 column, we have the Hangar Manager app, which is creating a Mobiglass app that emulates the functionality of the ASOP terminals, allowing players to spawn ships, claim insurance, and access the array of landing services to maintain their ships, plus the new addition of the MISC Hull A. Obviously, 3.17 being the last patch that is on the roadmap for the time being is very light in terms of content, and it will get added to and most likely get taken away from as well over the course until its release. So CIG do say that with the progress tracker being extended to Q1 2022, which is for all the upstream teams only, the downstream team schedule is expected to extend into Q3 in a publish near the start of that quarter. With this extension, there are quite a few new deliverables added to the progress tracker, the first one being Identity Service, and this is a proxy service that will relay information about accounts between the RSI platform, Spectrum, which is also known apparently as Tavern, and the game client. Work on this starts at the beginning of January next year and goes on through till the end of March. We have a couple of new AI additions, the first one being Untrained Combat, which is the first iteration of untrained characters like civilians for example, to react to battle scenarios, using whatever they can find to defend themselves, trying to preserve their lives using cover or surrender when necessary. Now the work for Untrained Combat started towards the end of March and should be finishing around now, so we may see some of this on Tony Zurevek's presentation someday soon. The next AI feature is quite a big one. It is planetary navigation, with it saying this is the first pass at a system that allows NPCs to move on planetary surfaces using a dynamically generated navigation mesh, which will efficiently process planetary terrain and objects to prioritize the processing of the environment around the players into a nav mesh, allowing CIG to use all the existing functionalities on planets. So basically having AI and NPCs capable of moving around the surface of planets and moons. This is a major necessity into getting NPCs pretty much everywhere being able to move around and do whatever they want. It underpins so many other features, and the work on this is happening this month and will complete just as we move into June. So again, I would expect to see more on this in the Tony Zurevek presentation happening sometime this month, but that is a big win in my book for getting that completed. And hopefully we can start to see more AI and NPCs just spread out around the verse. So the next feature is space station clinics, and for Grimhex as well, to receive the hospital interiors where players can heal, revive and purchase medical supplies and life insurance. Now both of these features look to begin work right now, finishing towards the end of August. The next feature we have is the unified login queue, which says creating a shared login queue to prevent massive login waves from negatively affecting backend services. So that sounds like quite an important update, which is scheduled to work throughout February next year. From here we have the cockpit button animations, which is to finalize the Gladius's dashboard buttons with multi-states and fully demonstrable with a procedural animation for each state. Basically the Gladius is to be the test case for getting all of the dashboard buttons hooked up to the player animation, so when we press a keybind or click a button on the dashboard, your character will actually physically reach out and move it. This has 4 weeks work between February and March 2022. Now the next feature is one that I'm very excited to see on the roadmap. It is called Derelict Spaceships Points of Interest. Basically these derelicts will be scattered on planets with some type of activity, be that a puzzle, some form of traversal needed, or hostile AI, culminating in some type of reward for resolving said activity. Now, although this sounds pretty static, I am looking forward to finally having rewards other than UEC. Plus, it'll make each derelict slightly different, requiring a more thought out approach. Now, this feature has 23 weeks work, which will kick off towards the end of June and finish around the end of November. So we are waiting a little while for that yet. Next up, we have the Mission Manager update. This is converting the Mission Manager app to building blocks and updating the UI to support the dynamic mission system, including the ability for players to see the reputation requirements of mission content. So a very much needed update, scheduled for 5 weeks work, but not until January and February next year. Okay, so we have some real big guns next, the Hull D and the Hull E. So now alongside the Hull C, which is currently being worked on and scheduled to release in Alpha 3.16, the Hull A and B, which is scheduled to finish mid-December, they have now included the final 2 Hull series, which are the biggest variants, with the Hull D scheduled for 3 weeks work in January 2022, and the Hull E, which will have 4 weeks work between January and February. These two will be complete monsters in the verse. Also, hopefully by then, we should have the cargo refactor so we can actually use them. So moving on, there are 2 new gold standard vehicles included on the progress tracker. We have the Origin 600i and the Greycat PTV, each receiving the gold standard treatment. Now the 600i will get gilded between October and mid-December, taking about 11 weeks, and the PTV has 4 weeks work in January next year. It'll be really interesting seeing a gold standard PTV, as it's such an old vehicle now, and it will likely get a full Greycat makeover. I also do wonder if the 600i will have its internal revamp, perhaps for this time as well. So the next 2 features are pretty interesting. First up, we have Lava Tech, saying modifying and tuning river tech to produce impressive lava rivers and lakes. This will be very cool to see. Initially, I would expect it to be for Pyro, but it has 7 weeks work starting next year in January and ending mid-February. And the second interesting feature is called Ecosystem Enhancements, stating enhancing the realism of plants and animals in their aspects and behaviours to better immerse them in their respective environments. So I'm assuming this means making them feel more like they belong to each environment and have evolved there over the years, rather than just being plonked there for the sake of it. Either way, it has 11 weeks work starting at the beginning of next year until mid-March. So there are a few other updates. Firstly, 3 deliverables that were removed previously from the roadmap are now back in. We have Bounty Hunting version 2, which is enabling players to track criminals using various methods. And although it is great to see this deliverable back in, its 9 weeks work isn't unfortunately scheduled until the beginning of January, end of February next year. The multi-grid signed distance field capital ship destruction is the next one. This has 6 weeks work beginning early January and ending mid-February. And finally, weapon misfire and wear, which now has 39 weeks work scheduled to start early July and finish March next year. So quite a long one there. So the Small Home Outpost deliverable has now been renamed to Outpost Homestead, Independent and Outlaw, stating this encompasses several additional modules as well as a rundown variant. I'm assuming this means independent for independent citizens and maybe outlaw just referring to a pirate group or an outlaw NPC, but we will have to wait and see. One previously unannounced card that is now revealed is the RSI Scorpius, which I have created a video on this already, linked in the description below. This has 65 weeks work, which actually began in January this year and continues all the way through till March 2022. So quite a significant amount of work there. And this ship will be unveiled at this year's Invictus launch week with a concept sale, I would expect. So that is this week's roadmap update. Another very significant update, but this time a lot of pushbacks, which are never great to read about and obviously pretty disappointing. But at the same time, we do see a lot of new exciting features being added, and personally I was super excited for 3.14, and although I am still excited for it, it is definitely a shame to see these features being delayed. But it's nothing new, and it is the nature of the beast that is Star Citizen, so I'll get over it and I'll focus on what I'm looking forwards to. But with that said, if you do enjoy my content, do consider subscribing to keep up with all of Star Citizen's development. Also, do come and hang out over on twitch.tv/supermacbrothers. Ryan, you are all more than welcome over on Twitch. We will definitely be talking more about this roadmap update. Hit that like button if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour. And if you would like to be notified when my videos go live, tick that little notification bell. Big thank you to my patrons and channel members for all of their support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.